Trade talks are picking up once again as Jeff Gorton has revealed the Habs' master plan for continuing to build their roster going forward. We have to dive into some quotes from Jeff Gorton that very much tease that a move could very well be coming even later into the summer, but not just that. We want to revisit what Kent Hughes had to say just 8 days ago in a recent article from Eric Engels on the biggest need for Montreal. Plus, one of our prospects, a brand new fan favorite, has officially been invited to the Team USA World Junior Summer Showcase. A bunch of great stuff coming up on this episode of Habs Digest. But hey, before we get into the video, quick reminder, guys, we are almost at 22,000 subscribers, and you guys have been supporting like crazy. Thank you so much for tuning in every day. These videos are doing great. The streams are doing great. You are a huge part of that. Jesse, let's dive into this here. Whoa, little tease of a Jeff Gorton quote if you want to go pause and go back, but I encourage you to wait because that's really interesting. Look, the 2025 World Junior Summer Showcase, Team USA invited players. There's a lot of names here, but I want to direct your eyes to the right side, third row down. And it's LJ Mooney. And LJ Mooney, Jesse, has quickly become a fan favorite in Montreal. The 4th round pick has all the skill in the world. Fantastic playmaker, fantastic skater, fantastic puck handler. Habs fans love him already, not just because he's tiny and we have a couple of tiny players who do really well in the league. He's just a fun personality. Said he looks up to Caufield and Hutson. And to see, Hage and Prots being invited to the Team Canada one, and LJ Mooney being invited to the Team USA one, I'm just stoked for this.
Lil John Mooney, no problem picking him out of that picture right there. Moondog, as he's affectionately known by, maybe on this channel. We'll see if the kind of catch it's for
Moondog.
But again, it's like, what I love about this player, Josh, is that like Lapointe was tasked with our Habs, scouting department of getting that top 6 talent in the draft. Like, go out and get that home run. Well, isn't like LJ Mooney that definition of kind of like a home run type, even though he's smaller, like he plays that home run type of small, like swing for the fences, Hail Mary passes, just plays with that compete all the way. So again, Josh, even though he's a little bit smaller for me with that compete, I'm just feeling like there's a good chance he can make it to the, to the NHL in the top 6. If that is still with the Montreal Canadiens, we'll see. Again, a very interesting player. Looking at some of like the negative things that he'll want to be kind of working on this summer going forward is he's a smaller guy that gets hit a little bit on the ice. Some guys like Hutson, like Caufield, they're pretty good at avoiding it. Mooney's going to want to work on avoiding that. It maybe caused a little bit of a knee injury that maybe even affected him and was the reason why he got drafted to us. I don't know. Maybe it's the reason just why he got gifted to us there. He tries the risky plays. He's going to have to learn to play that safer play. At the same time, Josh, like he is just like, he's everywhere all over the ice. He plays with the heart of a lion with so much courage on the ice. Being a smaller guy, going up to these 6 foot plus, 200-pound guys and really knocking them over again, just talks about all the character that LJ Mooney has. You take that, you then put it with the skill, and we definitely see why Team USA for the World Juniors is definitely excited to see more of them.
And that's a quality that a lot of, Habs management is looking for now. One of these guys that's not afraid to get into the dirty areas, which Mooney doesn't mind to do occasionally, but really lay the body with that hustle, that energy at his size is something that's extremely rare. It's going to be incredibly fun to see whether he makes Team USA, and if he does, what he can do in those World Juniors. I just love this prospect. Very excited to follow him, and hey, we'll be keeping tabs on him all season long, so you'll want to stay up to date. And look, Jesse, though, as we're moving towards the future, trades are going to happen, and we know that now. Whether it'll all happen this offseason, we're not sure, but Jeff Gorton certainly teased it, but you're going to have to wait for that just a little later, as I do want to talk about an Eric Engels article first from July 8th, talking about the Canadiens depth chart. Hole at 2C, only 1 remaining, and I want to leave the link down below as well, so go check it out. I'll leave the Athletic link that we'll reference later as well down below, but talking about Eric Engels, he revisits a quote from Kent Hughes just 8 days ago, right? Where he said, the reality is we're not going to put the perfect team together over the course of one summer. I think as we go about doing things, we recognize we have other things we'd like to accomplish. I just don't see us accomplishing everything all at once. And even Gorton, I will tease a little bit what he said. Like, he said, yeah, we got Dobson, we got Bolduc. Those were maybe not the top priority, but we got some stuff done. And Kent is like, look, we know what we need to accomplish, and it's no secret right now that it is fine to second line center. So to hear what Kent Hughes has to say, to see Eric Engels saying, look, you might have noticed the asterisk next to Kirby Dach's name in the depth chart that he had there. He still could find it, but we know it's nothing more than a maybe, and that the Canadiens would prefer to find a sure bet to play between Bolduc and Demidov. Now, again, Jesse, we'll dive into whether it's more likely to happen this summer in a little bit, but I think all signs are kind of pointing to this, and whether the 2C trade happens this summer or even midway through this season, I'm really starting to think, like, we're probably not waiting till next offseason to see something like this happen, at least not with the theme of the trades that we've been seeing recently.
And there's some key insights here into how Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton, they do their work. they're going with the flow. There's like a certain age group and a certain skill level that they want to look to acquire. And when certain players that they feel fits that criteria, they're going to be paying attention. I think that that's really important going forward. Obviously, there's only so many players that you can kind of get within that certain age group. That being said, very interesting to see kind of that motivation between, behind the Dobson move, which was just like a core player. Once he becomes available, you just kind of make a play for that. And then with Bolduc, like, again, there is that hole at 2 seeds. This team is so close, Josh, we can take it. But like, I've hinted at like Bolduc kind of being a hybrid approach where like they can be good if the team isn't changed from now to the offseason, where Bolduc can go and play 2C. I think that he can play on a line really well with Demidov. Like that physical style, I think that Bolduc was brought on to play with Demidov one way or another, at least with that longer term vision. We don't want to completely write out line A. That's just the optics of how it's really looking right now. So again, like you have this option where if you get a 2C, that's great. And Bolduc could just go to the wing. If not, you got a guy that, for me, can come and play the center position. This is a guy that can score goals. But when you play with that compete and that grit, like when you're LJ Mooney, but you actually got the size to kind of back it up a little bit, Bolduc, I'm not worried about that person playing center. Like, it's surprising how much confidence, rather, I really have in him in that place kind of going forward. So this is going to be really interesting to see going forward. Like, Josh, does like the Habs potentially, I think, passing on a Granlund, I think they could have got them if they wanted to. Do you think that them passing on Granlund means that they want like a certain young guy, like a certain age group, a certain talent level for that 2C, and that's what they're holding out for?
Could very well be the case, right? And I think it does make sense. Like, look, I did say, yeah, we're making kind of win now moves, but at the same time, these win now moves are still for pretty young players. 25-year-old Dobson, 22-year-old Bolduc, two guys that Dobson's going to slot in on your top pair defensively right away, I would imagine, and he's 25, right? And so, yeah, it is a win now, but he's young, and you have him for 8 more years of control. Bolduc, we're going to have to extend him after this year. Who knows for how long, but he's 22, right? He's just going to grow into it. And even GM of the Blues, Doug Armstrong, was raving about Bolduc and how he hated to have to give him up, but he just had to look at the team's long-term vision. So honestly, I think you're onto something. I think like maybe if they did want another center, like we talked about Duchesne and Granlund before free agency, they ended up, Duchesne back to Dallas and Granlund over to Anaheim. It's like, could have. But again, it doesn't really make that much sense when you're looking at building the team vision long term, and especially with what Jeff Gorton had to say. I think they do have a very specific vision for that 2C. I think you're very much onto something. And what do you guys think about the 2C? Is it going to be someone younger? Let us know down below. Is this someone we're waiting? Like, we're not going to strike until the iron's hot and until we see the exact player that we want. It can be very interesting. But, Jesse, it is time to get into what Jeff Gorton had to say. No, that's not Bogdan, though. It's always good for some Bogdan praise. Sorry. This article from The Athletic. Now, a lot of the stuff that Arpin writes in here, a lot of the quotes we'll use from Jeff Gorton do come from Basu and Godin notebook, but we took the quotes from this Athletic article. We'll link this down below. It also links to the Basu and Godin notebook. Check that full interview out. It's wonderful. But going into some of these Jeff Gorton quotes here, Jesse, like, he talked about a lot of things, and there's a lot we're going to bring up here, a lot of text, but he really keeps hinting at something coming. Look, talking about the Dobson deal, he said, it's not like we set out to get a right-hand D-man. He kind of said we didn't set out to get a left wing in Bolduc. Did we do everything we set out to do? I don't know. Maybe we'll have to wait a little while to answer that one. Okay, Jeff, maybe we have to wait. Let's go to this one. My sense is that training camp, when teams come out of that, you don't generally see a lot of movement for the first 20 games, right? So he said, I don't see that changing. It could be crazy, but the curious part is probably the next few weeks to see if there's a secondary market that evolves. People didn't get what they wanted. They didn't get the change in their team. They want to do something different, and do they try to make some trades to change it up? And there's this final one here. Said, look, there's probably going to be some trades between now and training camp. He keeps reiterating this. We got another fun point later about his strategy, his master plan of how we can trade certain assets versus not trading others. But just on this note, Jesse, I feel like this whole interview was Jeff Gorton saying, hey, keep your eyes out. Keep your eyes out. There's something going to happen. And it just brings me back to last year where we got Line A on the secondary market later in the summer. I don't know. I definitely get the vibe that with what Kent has been saying, with what Jeff Gorton says here, we are far from done.
And making smart moves, smart bets, using analytics, Josh, really is at the heart of getting a lot of these acquisitions, these trades, whether it was Dobson or whether it was Zach Bolduc. They're running it through the analytics machine, modeling. What they're doing is they're seeing, how would this player play if he was with the Montreal Canadiens for this entire year in these given situations? Again, that makes sense because you want to know how the player would really perform in your environment. It's not a perfect science, but in the case of Dobson, they have a fair amount of data. And from there, even though considering his style of play, they kind of reasoned that this would be a solid addition to this team going forward. Again, very interesting to note how every single player, before they're pulling the trigger, they are doing a fair amount of work ahead of time. Figure, okay, where would this player figure out on our team with these type of line mates? How does that kind of line up? And really running the numbers, again, to have some database decisions going forward. So for me, that's really huge. We know that there's some money to spend, and for sure it makes sense. Some GMs are kind of coming back from that vacation mode, but then they're realizing, okay, we got some money to spend, and what team can any GM just say, oh, my team is kind of perfect as is? Like there's going to be some movement kind of going forward here. But again, I'm just so kind of like comforted by the whole decision-making process of really like the rationale that they're using behind every single decision that the Habs are making.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Like, and it just gives me so much confidence. And you do have to wonder, like, I mean, to you, Jesse, like, if you see Montreal and you're another team, whether in the Atlantic or somewhere else in the Eastern Conference, and you see what Montreal has done this offseason, you see how they project to go in the future, I don't know about your opinion, but I genuinely think if I'm one of these other teams, it might genuinely be because of what Montreal is doing, not just because of them, that could make another team say, I don't know if I can compete with that for the long term. That could very well shift other teams' plans as well.
Oh, absolutely. And that's been the whole plan for the Habs right now, is really having that long-term success. And you have to feel like that's really the motivation when they're really kind of doing these analytics to see how this player is really going to affect their team long-term. So really interesting to note. Again, you know, like what we know about Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes this offseason is like they're really not done, and that they've really backed up everything that they said that they were going to do, but always making these moves to really help the team in the long term. And it's just so nice to see that motivation, because there's been a little bit of that lack in the past rather. This team has shown that they're ready, really get rewarding, and I mean, it just makes it so exciting for us as fans.
And I'm so glad you said that too, because there is one final quote I want to bring up, and that's not like mortgaging the future. It's all this future long-term plan, right? And one final thing Jeff Gorton said, and I want to get your thoughts on this too. There's only so many Logan Mailloux in a prospect pool. There's only so many first-round picks in a prospect pool. So I think we have to be wary of that in terms of going big game hunting. There's probably not enough in there to do it 3 or 4 times. And to be fair, yeah, it makes a lot of sense, right? To get Zachary Bolduc, it wasn't cheap. You have to trade a Logan Mailloux. You had to get rid of 2 first-round picks and a young, nice bottom 6 player in Emil Heineman to get Noah Dobson. You can't just keep going and going and going. And the fact that we're hearing this is like, we're not full-out buy mode, but the fact that the long-term future is in such clear view, and to know what we can and can't sell, like, to me, this master plan, like, I feel like there's 0 flaws in it, Jesse, and every single time I hear them speak about what they're planning to do, I get even more excited.
And again, you have to feel like when I'm looking at this, the one player that's coming to my mind from the Montreal Canadiens as a potential trade chip, given this situation, which is so true, so obviously Mike Matheson. Yeah. We know that there's only so many first-round prospects that we're kind of panning out like Logan Mailloux is. You don't want to trade too many of those in the future. I'm not too, like, I feel like the Habs are trending in the right direction. But again, I don't want to be trading away first-round picks willy-nilly going forward, at least for the next couple years kind of going forward there. So, you know, again, you really have to feel like some key players, again, from a position of strength, to get where we're lacking. We all know where that is on the Montreal Canadiens. We know where that position of strength is. And again, what is so great about this is we have value there, but we do have some prospects too that are panning out like to be those NHL type players. So I think some roster players, combining that with prospects, and then, you know, picks while not mortgaging our future to really get that impact player that we need at that 2C, I think would be the perfect scenario.
Completely agree. Another name too, Mike Matheson was at the top of my mind as well, but Joshua Waugh, we mentioned it recently. Like, there's guys there that are, I don't want to say expendable, but like, we look to the long-term future, one of Beck or Kaiden could be gone. I mean, I'm just throwing some names out there, right? Like, there's only so much room, and you want to get maximum value back when you move these guys. We'll just have to wait and see, but I'm very excited. Let us know your thoughts on all of this down below, because that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel, because moves are coming, and we're right here to keep you up to date on all of it. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.